She was already walking away when the girl grabbed her wrist. Not a tug. Not a tap. A grip, small fingers, surprising pressure. The kind that comes from someone who has been rehearsing the moment for a long time, and is terrified they will lose their nerve before it is over. Maya Eric stopped. The terrace was cold for a Busan summer night. Behind them, through the tall glass panels, 400 people laughed and clinked glasses and made deals that would move money across 3 continents by Monday morning. Out here it was just the wind off the water and the distant pulse of the city below. And this child, this small, immaculate, entirely alone child, holding her wrist like a lifeline. Maya looked down. The girl was 9, maybe 10. Dressed like she had been assembled by someone who cared more about appearances than comfort. A structured navy dress, hair pinned back so precisely it looked painful. Her face was composed in the way that only happens when composure has been practiced. Held together by will, not calm. Her eyes, though. Her eyes were doing something her face refused to do. They were asking. You were watching him, the girl said. Her English was careful, deliberate. Learned. Earlier. When he walked in. You watched him the way people do when they are trying to understand something. Maya said nothing. She had, in fact, watched Chairman Dae-ho Kwon walk into the gala the same way she watched most things in unfamiliar rooms, with professional attention. It meant nothing. It apparently meant everything to this child. Who is he to you? The girl asked. Nobody, Maya said. I don't know him. The girl studied her face for a long moment, the way children do when they have not yet learned to pretend they are not studying you. Then she said it. Quietly. Without drama. Like she had been holding it so long it had worn smooth. The woman standing next to him put something in his tea. Every morning. I have watched her do it. Nobody believes me. The noise from inside seemed to dim. Maya felt the air change around the sentence, felt the specific weight of it, the way certain words rearrange the atmosphere just by existing in it. She looked through the glass. Across the hall, Chairman Dae-ho Kwon stood at the center of a tight circle of men in expensive suits. He was silver-haired, still, occupying space with the ease of someone who had never once in his life been made to feel small. On his arm, perfectly placed, perfectly composed, stood Soo-jin Bae. Beautiful in the specific way that costs a great deal of money to maintain. Smiling at something the chairman said. Maya looked back at the girl. What is your name? Nari. Nari whose? A pause. Then, Kwon. Maya did not react. She had learned long ago that the moments that mattered most were the ones that required the stillest face. How old are you? 9. And you are out here alone. I came to find someone to tell. Nari's grip on her wrist had not loosened. I have been trying for 2 months. Everyone inside, they all work for my father or they want something from him. You are the only person I saw tonight who looked at him like you did not need anything from him. Maya looked at this child. At the pressed dress and the careful hair and the eyes that were exhausted in a way that 9-year-olds should never be exhausted. She thought about her flight home. Thursday. 2 days. She thought about the fabric deal she had spent 4 months negotiating. The one that would finally open the Korean market for her supplier in Ondo State. She thought about how none of that was this child's problem. Go back inside, Maya said gently. Find someone who works for your father and stay near them. Nari released her wrist. She looked at Maya for one more moment. Not hurt, not surprised, just recalibrating the way someone does when a plan fails and they are already building the next one. Then she walked back through the glass doors, slipped into the crowd and disappeared. Maya stood on the terrace for another 3 minutes. The wind came off the water. Down below, Busan moved and breathed and went about its business. She went back inside. Welcome to Black Silk Stories, the home of Afro-Korean stories that hit different. Subscribe, drop a comment and do not go anywhere. This is only the beginning. She did not sleep. By 1 a.m. she had ordered room service she did not eat, watched 20 minutes of a drama she did not follow, and was sitting cross-legged on her hotel bed with her laptop open, reading about a family she had no business reading about. The Kwon family. 3 generations of construction and logistics money, built in Busan when Busan was a different city. The chairman's father had been, depending on which source you believed, either a visionary entrepreneur or a man who understood that certain laws applied to some people and not others. The chairman himself had expanded the business, diversified it, moved it into areas that did not always appear in official filings. 3 deaths in the family over 12 years. A brother. An uncle. The chairman's first wife. All recorded as illness. All occurring during periods when the family's internal power arrangements were under pressure. Maya closed the laptop, opened it again. She called Funk at 1:47 a.m. without thinking too hard about the time difference. Funk answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep and immediate suspicion. What happened? Nothing happened. Maya, you do not call me at this hour when nothing happened. Maya told her. All of it. The terrace, the grip on her wrist, the girl's face, what she said. She told it plainly, the way she told most things, without performance. When she finished, there was silence on the line. Then Funk said, She is 9 years old. I know. Children say things, Maya. They misunderstand things they see. They build stories. I know that too. Then what are you? Funk stopped. A long exhale. What are you actually calling to tell me? Maya looked at the closed laptop. I looked them up. Of course you did. 3 deaths, Funk. 12 years. All recorded as natural causes. That is not your family. That is not your city. You have a flight on Thursday and a deal that took you 4 months to put together, and I need you to hear yourself right now. I hear myself. Do you? Maya was quiet for a moment. Outside her window, the port lights of Busan scattered across the water like something spilled. She was not making it up, she said finally. I know the difference. Funk said nothing, which, with Funk, was its own kind of answer. Get some sleep, she said eventually. We will talk tomorrow. Maya ended the call. Sat in the quiet hotel room. Thought about a 9-year-old who had been trying to tell someone for 2 months. She opened her laptop and found the website for Bozong Domestic Placements, a high-end household staffing agency that placed staff in Busan's wealthiest private estates. She had come across them 3 years ago during a trip when her host family had mentioned them. She had filed it somewhere in her memory, the way she filed everything that might one day be useful. She read their placement criteria, their vetting process, the kind of estates they served. The Kwan estate was listed among their exclusive clients. Maya stared at the screen for a long time. Then she began filling out the application. She was hired in 22 hours. The estate was 40 minutes from the city center, set back from a private road behind walls that were high enough to be a statement. A car carried her from the agency at 7 in the morning. The driver said nothing the entire journey, which suited Maya fine. She spent the drive watching the landscape change. The city thinning out, the air shifting, the buildings giving way to old trees and older money. The gates opened. They drove through. The house was large in the way that it announced itself without shouting. Stone and glass set into a hillside, surrounded by gardens that were tended to the point of severity. Everything about it said, "Order is maintained here." Do not misunderstand what that means. Head steward Park met her at the entrance. He was a small man who carried himself as though he were not 50s, gray at the temples, eyes that assessed and filed in a single sweep. He looked at Maya the way people sometimes looked at her in rooms they did not expect to find her in. Not hostile exactly, but recalibrating. "Miss Eric," he said. "Mr. Park, you come highly recommended by the agency." He said it in a tone that suggested he found the agency's recommendations interesting rather than convincing. "Your Korean is functional?" "Functional," she agreed. "The household operates on a precise schedule. Meals, cleaning rotations, laundry, guest preparation, all timed. You will receive a full document today. Deviation from the schedule requires my approval." He paused. "Are you someone who deviates?" Maya looked at him steadily. Not without good reason. Something crossed his face that might, in a different man, have been the beginning of a smile. "Good. Follow me." He walked her through the ground floor, the formal rooms, the service corridors, the kitchen hierarchy, the areas that were accessible and the areas that were not. He spoke in the clipped, thorough way of someone who had been managing large households for decades and had no patience for repeating himself. Maya listened. She also looked. She noted the cameras at the corridor intersections, the layout of the kitchen relative to the chairman's private dining room, the position of the pantry, the morning routine that Park described. The chairman breakfasted at 7:15 alone in the small east-facing room off his study. Tea. Always tea. Prepared fresh by hand. Delivered by Miss Bay oversees the chairman's morning tea personally, Park said, as if reading from a checklist. That is her preference and the chairman's. It is not a task for household staff. Understood, Maya said. They passed through a corridor and she saw Nari. The girl was walking toward them from the opposite direction, a book under her arm, dressed for what appeared to be a home tutorial. She saw Maya and stopped. For a single moment, one breath, no more. Something moved in Nari's face. Recognition. Relief maybe. The beginning of something. Then it closed. The composure came back down like a shutter. She walked past them both without a word. Eyes forward, unhurried. Park did not notice. He was already explaining the linen rotation. Maya continued walking. She did not look back. But she felt it, the quiet fact of Nari's presence, settling into the space between her ribs like a stone she had agreed to carry. The first week taught her the estate's rhythms the way you learn a new language, by listening for what repeats. The chairman rose at 6. He exercised alone in the lower garden until 6:45. He showered. At 7:15, Sujin Bey brought his tea to the east room, set it on the low table by the window, and sat with him for 12 to 15 minutes. They spoke quietly. She touched his arm when she left. Maya watched this without appearing to watch it. She watched Sujin the way you watch something that wants to be looked at, because the things that want to be looked at are often the things that need looking at from the side. Sujin was beautiful and knew it in the functional way of someone who had made beauty into a tool. She was gracious with the staff, not warm but gracious. She remembered names. She said please. She had the very specific charm of someone who understood that charm, applied correctly, is a form of control. But Maya noticed something. Every morning without fail, Sujin prepared the tea herself in the pantry with the door closed. Not half closed. Closed. In a household where everything else happened in open kitchens and shared corridors, this one ritual was sealed off. Maya noticed the chairman too. He was a man who gave nothing away. She understood that within the first day. He moved through the estate with the contained authority of someone who had spent a lifetime ensuring that no one could read him. Staff stepped back when he entered rooms. Conversations adjusted when he was near. Even the air seemed to organize itself around him. But by mid-morning most days, he sat heavily in his chair. It was a small thing. Almost nothing. The kind of tiredness that looks like stillness if you are not paying attention. But Maya had spent 15 years reading rooms and the people in them, and she knew the difference between a man resting and a man depleted. He was being drained. Slowly. Quietly. By something he had no reason to suspect. On the 5th day, Nari found her in the laundry corridor. The girl appeared without sound. She moved through the house like she had learned to take up as little space as possible, and stood beside Maya without preamble. You are still here, Nari said. I am still here. A pause. Why? Maya continued sorting linens. Because I took a job. Nari was quiet for a moment. Then, the other ones leave. The new staff. They usually leave in the first week. Mr. Park is difficult. Mr. Park is precise, Maya said. There is a difference. Nari considered this. He does not like me. He is cautious about things he cannot categorize. That is not the same as dislike. The girl looked at her. You talk like someone who has been in many different rooms. I have been in many different rooms. Another silence. Nari picked at a loose thread on her sleeve, the first unguarded thing Maya had seen her do. She made tea this morning, Nari said quietly. She was in the pantry for 11 minutes. I counted. Maya did not stop folding. Okay. Last week it was 8 minutes. And the week before. Nari. Maya's voice was low, steady. I need you to do something for me. The girl looked up. Stop counting. Stop watching her. Go to your lessons, read your books, be 9 years old. Can you do that? Nari's face did the thing again, the internal adjustment, the recalibration. Are you going to do something? Maya met her eyes. I am already doing something. It was the most she could give her. It was she could see enough. Nari nodded once. Picked up the book she had set on the shelf beside her. Walked away. 14 days in, Sujin was summoned unexpectedly to a telephone call just as the morning tea was prepared. Maya was in the kitchen when it happened. She watched Sujin's face shift, barely, briefly. into something that was not quite irritation and not quite concern. Then she set the tray down on the counter and moved toward the corridor, saying to no one in particular, "Someone bring that up in 10 minutes. No one moved immediately. The kitchen staff exchanged glances. The tea was Miss Bay's domain. Everyone knew that. And no one wanted to step into territory that was not theirs. Maya picked up the tray. "I will take it," she said simply. No one objected. She walked to the pantry first. She worked quickly and carefully. She had thought through this moment, prepared for it, and she did not let her hands shake even though part of her very much wanted to. She transferred a small amount of liquid from the prepared cup into a sealed glass vial she had carried in her uniform pocket for 6 days. She replaced it. She adjusted the cup back to where it had been. She picked up the tray and walked to the east room. The chairman was at the window when she entered. He did not turn around immediately. "You are not Sujin," he said. "No, sir." She was called away. "I was asked to bring this up." He turned then. He looked at the tray, then at Maya. A look that went several layers deeper than most people's looks. He was not a man who accepted surface information. "Leave it," he said. She set the tray down. She turned to leave. "Your name," he said. "Maya, sir." He looked at her for another moment, the particular attention of someone who notices things and is trying to decide what category this thing belongs to. "You are new," he said. 2 weeks, sir." He nodded once slowly and turned back to the window. Maya walked out of the room. She kept her pace even all the way down the corridor, through the kitchen, and into the back stairwell, where she stopped and pressed her back against the wall and exhaled for the first time in what felt like several minutes. The vial was in her pocket. She had a contact at Busan National University, a research chemist she had met 3 years ago at a conference in Lagos who now owed her a favor of the quietly significant kind. She sent him a message that evening. For days later he sent her the results. She sat on her bed in the small staff room and read them twice. A hepatotoxic compound. Accumulative. Designed for long-term administration in small, undetectable doses. At the rate it appeared to be present in the sample, significant liver damage would manifest within 4 to 6 months. The onset would present as fatigue, then jaundice, then organ stress. It would look, to anyone not specifically testing for it, like the kind of illness that takes a man in his 60s who has lived under pressure his whole life. It would look natural. Maya put down her phone. She looked at the wall of the small staff room. Its plain white paint, its single window, the sounds of the estate settling around her. She thought about what she was holding. She thought about Nari, 9 years old, counting minutes in the corridor for 2 months. She thought about what she needed to do next and what it would cost and what it would cost not to. She found the chairman in the garden that evening. He was alone, genuinely alone, which was rare. He was usually surrounded by staff or associates or Sujin's gravitational presence. He was walking the lower path slowly, hands behind his back, looking at nothing in particular. Maya had not planned this. She had planned to wait, to find a controlled moment, to prepare everything she needed to say with the precision she applied to most things. But she saw him there, solitary and slightly diminished in a way. He would never allow himself to appear in front of anyone who needed to fear him, and she understood that this was the moment. She approached. He heard her footsteps and did not turn around. "Maya," he said. She had not expected him to remember her name. She fell into step beside him at a respectful distance. They walked in silence for a moment. The garden at dusk was the most beautiful version of itself. The severity softened, the light coming through the trees at an angle that made everything look considered. "You read," he said. She looked at him. "I saw you in the garden 2 evenings ago. You had a book. You finished it in one sitting." "I read quickly when something holds my attention," she said. "What was it?" "A book about how institutions protect themselves from the people inside them." He glanced at her sideways. Something moved behind his eyes, interest maybe or recognition. "That is an unusual choice for household staff," he said. "I am not usually a household staff," she said. The words landed. She watched him process them. Watched the stillness in him deepen rather than break. "Then what are you usually?" he said. "A businesswoman. Textiles and gemstones. I am based in Lagos." A long pause. The garden held its breath. "And what is a Lagos businesswoman doing in my household staff?" Maya kept walking, trying to decide how to tell you something that is going to be difficult to hear. He stopped walking. She stopped too. They stood on the lower garden path as the last of the light moved through the trees, and Maya looked at the most powerful and most endangered man in the room and said, quietly and without drama, "Someone in your house is poisoning you. I have laboratory evidence. And I think you already know something is wrong, even if you do not know what it is." The darkness lasted 4 seconds. Then the backup generators kicked in and the estate flooded with light again. Harsh, clinical, the kind that strips a space of all its warmth in an instant. Somewhere inside the house, an alarm began to sound. Dae-ho moved first. Not away from danger, toward it. That was the thing Maya would remember later, turning it over in her mind like a detail that refused to settle. Most people, when alarms go off and lights cut out, move toward exits. He moved toward the house. "Stay here," he said, without looking back at her. Maya did not stay. She followed him at a distance, through the garden door, into the service corridor, toward the sound that was growing beneath the alarm now, the specific sound of movement that did not belong to the house's usual rhythms. Boots on stone. More than 2 people. That was when she understood that the laboratory report in her pocket was not the most urgent problem tonight. She came down the back stairwell fast and quiet, reached the ground floor corridor and turned toward the east wing. And that was when she saw them. 3 men. Masks. Moving through the study corridor with the organized stillness of people who had rehearsed this. And Dae-ho ahead of her, walking directly toward them. What happened next took less than 90 seconds. Maya did not think her way through it. Thinking takes too long when a gun comes out. The body either knows what to do or it does not, and her body, trained across 15 years of operating in cities where being a woman moving alone with money made you a calculation, someone was always running, knew exactly what to do. She took the first man from behind. Forearm across the throat, weight dropping, leverage doing what strength could not. He went down hard and did not get back up. The second man turned. Narrow corridor, door frame in the way. She used the wall as a third limb, put her elbow into the space behind his knee, felt the joint give. He went down cursing. The third man had his gun at Dae-ho's temple. 3 seconds of absolute stillness. Then the security team poured in from the main corridor. 4 men, more noise than necessary, but noise was enough. The third man looked at Maya. Looked at the 4 men. Set the gun on the floor slowly, carefully, like he was setting down something fragile. It was over. Maya stood in the corridor, breathing deliberately, her left side throbbing from where she had caught the door frame. The security team moved around her, voices overlapping, radios crackling, someone calling for more light. Dae-ho was on his feet. He was looking at her. Not at his security team. Not at the men now face down on the floor. At her. She looked back at him. Her side hurt. Her hands were steady. "You need water," she said. It was the only neutral thing she could find. Something moved in his face. "So do you," he said. They did not talk that night. The estate became a controlled version of chaos. Police, security personnel. The particular energy of a powerful man's household suddenly reminded of its own vulnerability. Maya sat in the staff common room with her left side aching and a young estate medic wrapping her hand where she had caught the doorframe wrong. Nari appeared in the doorway at some point, drawn by the noise, still in her nightclothes, hair loose for the first time Maya had seen it. She looked at Maya's bandaged hand. She looked at the organized disorder beyond the corridor. She came and sat beside Maya on the bench without being invited, and did not say anything for a long time. Finally, "Are you hurt?" "I am fine," Maya said. "Your hand looks worse than it is." Nari looked at the floor. "He is okay?" "He is okay." The girl exhaled. A long, slow breath that carried months of something in it. She leaned very slightly against Maya's shoulder. Not dramatically. Barely perceptibly. The way someone leans when they are so tired of holding themselves upright and have finally found something they believe will not move. Maya did not move. In the morning, the estate had reorganized itself into stillness. The kind of stillness that follows a night no one wants to talk about directly. Maya was in the small staff dining room with tea she had not touched when Dae-ho came in. He closed the door behind him. He sat down across from her at the plain wooden table. No staff nearby, no Sujin, no Park, no one. Just the 2 of them in a room that smelled like old wood and morning. He looked at her hands. "How is it?" he said. It is fine. I want a doctor to look at it properly. It does not need. I know what I said. His voice was quiet, but there was an edge beneath it, not anger exactly. Something more like a man who is accustomed to having his concerns taken seriously. A doctor will look at it today. Maya held his gaze for a moment. Then, all right. He nodded. He looked at the table. He was quiet for long enough that the silence became something she could feel. Last night, he said finally, before the lights went out, you were telling me something. Yes. Tell me now. Maya reached into the pocket of her uniform. She placed the folded laboratory report on the table between them. She did not push it toward him. She let him reach for it. He read it slowly. All of it. She watched his face, watched him doing what he always did, which was to give nothing away, to process in private, to let no one see the workings. But this time, underneath the control, she could see something that looked like a man confirming a thing he had been afraid to confirm. He set the report down. How long? He said. The compound accumulates. Based on the concentration in the sample, it would estimate 4 to 6 months of administration. Maybe slightly longer. He was quiet again. Who knows about this? My contact at the university who ran the test. He is discreet. And you now? Not Nari. I told her I was handling it. I did not give her details. She is 9. Something crossed his face at that. Something that was not composed, that got through the control before he could stop it. He looked down at the report again. She came to you, he said. At the gala. Yes. She does not trust people easily. I know, Maya said. She told me she had been trying to tell someone for 2 months. The silence that followed had a different quality to it. Heavier. The kind that comes when a parent understands something about their child's experience that they cannot undo by understanding it. He stood up. He moved to the window and stood there with his back to her, hands behind him, the same posture she had seen in the garden the night before. I want you out of this house, he said. By tomorrow morning. Maya absorbed this. Not because I doubt you, he said before she could speak. Because the people who sent 3 men into my home last night will be considering what went wrong. They will look at everyone in this household. I do not want them looking at you. And Nari, Maya said. He turned. Nari is my responsibility. She has been someone's responsibility for the past 4 months, Maya said quietly. That has not kept her safe so far. It was a hard thing to say. She said it anyway. Daeho looked at her for a long moment. His jaw moved slightly. Not speaking, just the internal pressure of something that had nowhere to go. I will deal with what needs to be dealt with, he said finally. You have given me what I need to deal with it. Now I am asking you to let me do that. Maya looked at him. At the stillness that was not really stillness, at the composure that was doing real work right now, holding things together that she could not see. She thought about pushing. She was good at pushing. 15 years of negotiations had made her precise about when to press and when to release. She released. All right, she said. She packed in the evening. The staff room was small and her bag was not large, and it should not have taken as long as it did. But she moved slowly, folding things with more care than was necessary, which was what she did when she was thinking through something she could not fully resolve. Nari appeared in the doorway. She came in without being invited, sat on the edge of the narrow bed, and watched Maya pack with the particular attention of a child who knows something is ending and is trying to memorize the details. You are leaving, Nari said. Tomorrow morning. Nari looked at the half-packed bag. Did you tell him? Yes. What did he say? He said he would deal with it. Nari was quiet for a moment. Do you believe him? Maya considered this genuinely. Yes, she said. I think when your father decides to deal with something, it gets dealt with. Nari nodded slowly. She picked at the edge of her sleeve. That small unguarded habit that Maya had come to recognize as the place where the composure had its thinnest wall. I knew, Nari said quietly. On the terrace. When I saw you watching him. I knew you were the right person to tell. How? Maya said. You had never seen me before. Nari thought about it. You looked at him like you were trying to understand him. Not use him. Not impress him. Just understand. She paused. Nobody looks at him like that. Not here. Maya sat down beside her on the edge of the bed. The room was very quiet around them. You did a brave thing, Maya said. What you did at the gala. Coming to find someone, telling a stranger. That was not a small thing. I was scared, Nari said. I know. I am still scared. I know that too. Maya looked at her. But you did it anyway. That is the only kind of brave there is. Nari leaned against her then, not slightly, not barely perceptibly this time, but fully the way a child leans when they are done pretending to be something older than they are. Maya put her arm around her and they sat like that for a while in the small room as the estate settled into its night sounds. After a while, Nari said, "Will you come back?" Maya did not answer immediately. She thought about Lagos, about the deal, about the life she had left paused 3 weeks ago. She thought about a garden conversation and a laboratory report, and a man reading it at a plain wooden table. I do not know, she said honestly. Nari accepted this. She straightened up, smoothed her dress and stood, the composure coming back by choice now, not by default. She picked up her book from the shelf. At the door she stopped. I will ask my father to let me come to the airport, she said. You do not have to. I know I do not have to, Nari said, with the particular firmness of a 9-year-old who has decided. I want to. She left. Maya looked at the room for a moment. Then she finished packing. The car came at 7. Daeho arranged it without being asked, which Maya chose not to read too much into. Nari was already waiting at the entrance when Maya came downstairs, dressed and awake in a way that suggested she had not slept much. Park stood at his usual post near the entrance. When Maya passed him, he said, without particular expression, "The agency gave you a strong reference. You are only telling me that now?" Maya said. Something crossed his face. Not quite a smile. Closer to one than anything she had seen from him in 3 weeks. Safe travels, Miss Eric, he said. The drive to the airport was 40 minutes. Nari sat beside Maya in the back seat and talked, freely, fully, for the first time since the gala terrace. She asked about Lagos, about what it looked like, about whether the markets were as loud as she had read. She asked about textiles, about gemstones, about what it felt like to run your own business. She asked her questions the way bright children ask questions, rapidly, genuinely, pivoting without warning. Maya answered all of them. It was the easiest conversation she had in Busan. At the departure's entrance, they stood on the pavement in the morning light. Nari looked up at her. So, she said. So, Maya said. You have my number. I have your number. And you will call. Not just when I call you. I will call, Maya said. Nari nodded. She stepped forward and put her arms around Maya's waist and held on. Not briefly, not politely. For a full, real moment, she held on with both arms, her face pressed against Maya's shoulder. 9 years old and exhausted and relieved and just a child who had been carrying far too much for far too long. Maya held her back. Then Nari stepped away. Straightened. Smoothed her coat with both hands. The gesture so automatic, so practiced, so entirely her. Come back, she said. Simply. Maya looked at her for a moment. Take care of yourself, she said. Let your father take care of the rest. She went through the doors. She did not look back because if she looked back she would not go through. Lagos received her the way it always did. With heat and noise and the particular energy of a city that did not slow down for anyone's feelings. She went back to work. She finalized the fabric deal. She had meetings and calls and invoices and all the machinery of a life she had built carefully over 15 years. She called Nari on a Thursday, 8 days after she landed. Nari answered before the second ring. I was wondering when you would call, she said. Good morning to you too, Maya said. It is evening here. I know what time it is there. She could hear the smile in Nari's voice even across the distance. They talked for 45 minutes about nothing urgent, about everything real. Nari's tutor, a book she had finished, a new drawing she had made of the lower garden. My father asks about you, Nari said at one point casually, in the way that 9-year-olds deploy information they know is significant. Maya kept her voice even. Does he? He does not ask directly. He says things like, has she called and how did she sound? A pause. I think that is asking. Tell him I am well, Maya said. Tell him yourself, Nari said with great satisfaction. And before Maya could respond, there was the sound of shuffling and a door, and then a different quality of quiet on the line. Then Daeho's voice. Maya. She had not heard her name in his voice before. He said it the way he said most things, without decoration, without performance, just the word placed down carefully. Chairman, she said. Daeho, he said. You have earned the use of my name. She said nothing for a moment. Outside her Lagos window the city moved through its evening. How are you? She said. Better, he said. Simply. And then after a pause. Matters are being addressed. The ones you identified. I am glad. Nari is. He stopped. Started again. She is different. Since you left. Lighter. Another pause. I did not know how heavy she had been. Maya felt the weight of that sentence. Felt what it cost him to say it, the particular pain of a parent understanding something too late to have prevented it. She is resilient, Maya said. More than she should have to be. Yes. He was quiet for a moment. She wants me to tell you that she finished the book you recommended. The one about the woman who crosses 3 countries alone. What did she think of it? She said the woman was like you. A beat. I did not disagree. Maya looked at her ceiling. There was something in the way he said it, level certain, the way he stated facts, that settled in her chest and stayed there. Good night, Daeho, she said. Good night, he said. And then a second before he hung up. She asks about you every day, you know. Not just when you call. The line went quiet. The midnight call came on a Tuesday. 2:14 a.m. Lagos time. Her phone lit up the dark ceiling of her bedroom. She looked at the name on the screen for a moment before answering. It is 2 in the morning, she said. I know, Daeho said. He did not apologize for it. Are you sleeping? I was. I will call back. You will not, she said. You will hang up and decide not to call back, and we will both be awake at 2 in the morning for no reason. She sat up against the headboard. What is it? A pause. She could hear him breathing, not distressed, just present. The particular silence of someone who has picked up the phone knowing what they want to say, and is now deciding whether to say it. I have been thinking, he said. About the fact that there are people in my life I keep at a distance because distance is safer. For them and for me. A pause. And then there is you. Maya said nothing. You walked into my house as a stranger, he said. You had every reason to leave and you did not leave. You handed me information that could have made you a target, and you handed it to me anyway. He was quiet for a moment. I do not know what to do with that. You do not have to do anything with it, Maya said carefully. No, he said. But I find that I want to. He paused. I looked up flights to Lagos. Maya went very still. Did you? Several times. Another pause. I did not book one. Why not? A long silence. Because I wanted to tell you first, he said. Before I decided. Outside, Lagos moved through its 2 a.m. cars somewhere, music somewhere, the city that never fully went to sleep. Maya sat in the dark of her bedroom holding her phone and thinking about a garden conversation and a plain wooden table and a man who processed things in private and was, for possibly the first time, processing something in front of her. Book it, she said. The silence that followed had a different quality to it. Warmer. You are sure, he said. I do not say things I am not sure of. Another pause. Shorter this time. No, he said. I have noticed that about you. Good night, Daeho. Good night, Maya. She held the phone after the call ended. Looked at the dark ceiling for a while. Then she opened her laptop and pulled up her own travel calendar. Her return trip to Busan, originally scheduled 6 weeks away, sat there waiting. She looked at it for a long moment, the cursor hovering. She moved the date forward. She booked it. She closed the laptop. Lay back in the dark. And for the first time since she had stood on a Busan terrace with a child's fingers around her wrist and felt a decision made without her permission, for the first time since all of it, Maya Eric smiled. Nari-kwan was 9 years old. She had been carrying the secret for 4 months. She chose the right person. If this story held you, you already know where you belong. Black Silk Stories, the home of Afro-Korean stories that hit different. Subscribe. Drop a comment. Tell someone. We are just getting started.